Are you crying yet? I'm crying.
I'm trying to hold it in. Like, I've knocked my head back a couple times.
Correy's doing great.
She's going to crack a joke.
I'm semi-well adjusted.
Yeah.
Now available.
These are healthy tears. Welcome to Recovery Cast, where we share real and authentic stories about life in mental health and addiction recovery. I'm Brittani Baynard, and this is part 2 of our conversation with Alyson Stoner. This time, Alyson is joined by their sister, Correy O'Neal. Correy's journey involved a different set of challenges and is uniquely powerful. Amid a complex web of family and relationship abuse, Correy navigated addiction, anorexia, and homelessness. Through her deep commitment to healing, growth, and service, she's become a trusted digital media executive, consultant, and the co-founder of Movement Genius, where Correy leverages her lived experience to help build global campaigns for mission-driven companies that prioritize human well-being and community impact. Let's get into it. Welcome to Recovery Cast. We've got an extremely special episode today. I am joined by siblings Alyson and Correy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to be here. Absolutely. So, what are you hoping that people watching get from your story?
Actually, I hope that people see that two people living in the same traumatic and dysfunctional home can have very different experiences, and the recovery process, the healing journey, it's okay that it looks really different. And I think just allowing the individuality of our lives to be seen and our journeys to be heard.
Yes, absolutely. The individuality of your lives. Yes. Alyson, you wrote in your book about growing up in a home shaped by divorce, addiction, and a bit of dysfunction. What did that daily life look like for you as a kid in that environment? And then for you as well?
Because I started working professionally at age 7, a lot of my life got swept into set spaces. And I actually think there were quite a few things happening at home that I'm still just learning about. But I remember this sense of feeling quite isolated, that whatever glue might hold other families together, where you can interact with each other or lean on each other, there was just a sense of division. And it was a lot of fear because we had a very daily abusive experience with our stepfather. Are you okay sharing that? Yeah. That shaped the entire feeling tone of the home. And then each of us kids had to figure out whatever our natural coping response would be. Yeah. Mine was to just work more, but I don't know for you, what was your response?
Yeah, I think mine was to escape. We spent a lot of time in our individual rooms. I, dove into my interests, which were fashion or doing my hair. And it was really just like, don't go downstairs.
You created your own little world.
Yeah. And it made for a very lonely experience. It's a very lonely place, even having people in your home all the time.
How did you both interact when it came to the abuse that went on in the house? Were you opening up to each other? Did you kind of console each other?
Sadly, this is the first time in our lives that we've ever had a conversation about this with someone else together. And
well, thank you for allowing me to be here for this. Okay.
I think in our household, there was kind of this triangulation happening where the parents would tell me certain things about my siblings and would change my view of Correy's behavior as if there were problems that I should never try to repeat and create, when in reality, there was a deep lack of support and guidance and attentive care that any young person would have needed, on top of other really challenging things that you specifically experienced. And it was this dissonance because on the one hand, I was told, don't be like your sisters in these ways. But on the other hand, I think what I perceived was like, wait, this person's really resourceful and smart enough to try and get out of the house whenever they can and is figuring it out, even if it's messy along the way.
what you're seeing and what you're being told are kind of like different things, which again, it's like, I want to trust my gut here. What is
right.
Yeah.
So I didn't really reach out to you ever. I don't recall. What do you remember about our interactions? Also, you had to deal with more things than I did.
Yeah. We have a middle sibling as well. And I think the truth is we didn't physically even see each other often. It was this practice where we come home from school and our one sister would go to one bedroom and I would isolate up in my room, and we were isolated. We were not interacting. I am positive everyone heard everything in the house going on, but we never really talked about it. My personality is a little like justice oriented. So I would often like try to intervene, but when I was hearing something, and I think I had a lot more active engagement with the abuse, mentally, emotionally, physically, than the other siblings did, but we didn't ever discuss it.
I think adding on a layer there, our stepfather's way of going about things was a pretty classic cycle of abuse where the following day he pretended that nothing happened or he denied everything. And so there was a lot of gaslighting and confusion. And I was really young. So I just remember thinking like, did everyone make that up? Did I dream that? How come there's a new person standing in front of me? And I don't know if you remember it this way, but it got to the point where it was like clockwork and we knew it was going to happen every night at a certain time. But then the morning was like this facade.
Gosh. In the morning, he was taking me to school and I was, forced to kiss him on the lips. And it was like, this facade that we put on every day. New day was like, start again, do the routine, pretend as if there's love in the home.
As a child, how confusing that would be, because I think a huge thing happens in a household that disrupts the environment. And then the next day to be made the person that instigated the whole thing that you're sitting there fearing, act like it never happened. And to not only act like it never happened, but to then like be affectionate towards the person that is doing that.
And then be punished if we don't reciprocate.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
And I imagine that for a child, it doesn't set up the best train of thought into how somebody else will be treating me in the future and how I'm allowed to respond to it when the other adults are responding in a certain way. How in this environment did you then see yourselves and then see the other sibling?
I think the role that I perceived myself to be in, and I don't know if you would have viewed me this way, I, as the youngest, I think was still most closely attached to our mom. So her tendency in responding was to appease, to accommodate, to kind of placate, I think as a strategy to try and
technique.
get through the conflict. Or at least those are the parts that I witnessed. And so I kind of absorbed that sort of quote unquote peacemaker mentality where I would not have felt brave enough to confront, but I would be willing to coddle, willing to try and make peace by just
your body
agreeing
language.
To. Yeah. So that's how I feel like I've navigated it. And I also saw a lot of avoidance within myself. What about you? You were far more interactive and not always because you wanted to be.
Yeah. I did feel like my role was to call out what I was seeing because I didn't have another adult. I wasn't getting support from my counselors at school when I asked for help. There was evidence of things going on and I couldn't get outside support.
Oh my gosh.
So I took on that role kind of internally in the family. But it's funny you mentioned that you were closer to mom, because I actually think sometimes I felt like you two were a unit. And that was really confusing also.
Fused together.
Yeah.
Because then I'm imagining there was less support available for you and our middle sister because we were kind of this duo that was inseparable and looking out for each other more so than the whole family.
Yeah.
And when it came to traveling, were you with your mom most of the time?
Mostly,
okay,
yeah.
So then you were at home with your stepfather and other sibling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can say there that I remember I had to go on one audition with John and be on one set with him for one day. And that alone was like, I can't imagine that you both were living with that presence every day.
Mm-hmm.
And one day was enough for me to say, oh, I hope I don't have to do that again.
Yeah. In your book, you described experiencing manipulation and betrayal. For both of you, how did the experience of not having your biological father in the home impact you?
I feel lucky as the oldest because I had the most time with him before we moved to California.
Yeah.
You know, I reflect a lot on, through my own therapy practice that I'm in now, who were those trusted adults for me? And trust is kind of a confusing word. And the only person that I can reflect back on that was reliable, I believed them to do and say the things that they were going to, was my dad.
Yeah.
I, as the oldest, got to know him enough, long enough before we moved. So I feel very lucky.
Yeah.
However, I will call them rules in our home were that we were to put on, in our California home, were to put on this facade of perfection, that we had it all together. And part of that was the expectation that we cut our dad off. And as a child concerned about safety, you kind of follow what's going on.
Right.
Which meant cutting off the one person who I actually believed to be the truest, most trustworthy individual.
Yeah.
And it was equally confusing because I knew him to be that. I know him to be that person still in my life. And Alyson only had him for a few years before we moved. Jamie transitioned back and forth across the country and still had bits of my dad. But
and yeah, I was presented a completely different narrative about who he was. So I grew up not trusting him at all and perceiving him as someone who I wouldn't be able to rely on, who didn't care enough about me to ever want to see me.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's been such an interesting path for us to finally converge here and be able to say, hey, your story and experience actually finally matches mine now that I'm interacting with him more and I have my own adult relationship with him and I see his behavior. And, you know, you named that trust is confusing or complicated in some ways. And I agree because it takes a lot of reparative proof for your body to finally say, all right, I'll dare to believe that this is different. But I will say what's been really beautiful is that even though I only had a few years with him early on, there were moments where when I let go of the story that I had neck up, I realized my body actually did remember him to be trustworthy. And I think that's where our healing with somatic psychotherapy and body-centered tools has helped repair our ability to trust what happened, despite the narratives we were upholding or told.
And with that narrative then about your father, what made you change your mind and want to have that relationship?
I always had this driving question of whose decision was it that I got into the industry? And the narrative I had was, well, it was mine. And I love performing.
I've been doing this forever.
Right. But I never felt it in my body when I said it. And so I realized, well, I've spent the majority of my life with my mom. And so, of course, I'm going to hear life through her lens. And it just makes sense that if I want a rounder picture, I'm going to need to get some other input. I think maybe because I knew you and our middle sibling did have a relationship with him, it wasn't starting from scratch entirely. I at least knew like, oh, there's a bridge somewhere here and you have evidence of something else. I just want to see what that's about. And then I can decide for myself. You know, one of the very tender moments reuniting in this way was when I went back to visit in Ohio and he had this pile of news clippings and articles and different things that reminded him of the personality he knew I had, at least as a little one. And to see that he kept that just in case he could share it with me at some point. And to know that there was also a stop date to when he thought maybe I won't actually get to share these things anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this is our first moment together. okay, you're not who I thought you were.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
this is going to be an emotional ride, but
Right.
I got to see more.
It's the person I'm thinking, yeah, they can't do that.
Yeah,
They
it's
wouldn't
like-
save those things that wouldn't mean anything to that person that I thought you were.
Well, in the mirror there is that with our stepfather, he might have saved things like that, but it would have always been used against us in some
weaponize
way.
Type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And so I think that's where I was like, uh-oh, is this the same version of that? Or is this the genuine version? But what were you going to say?
I was just thinking, and I have not thought about this 15, 20 years. My dad sent me a cell phone. So I had an Ohio cell phone number. And he said if we ever need him to call. And I just think like it makes me so emotional. I was told to turn it off and never use it.
I remember that.
And yet that was like a physical representation of that was the lifeline he was
Mhm.
trying to provide because he wasn't allowed to reach us
Mhm.
in other ways.
Wow. I
But-
remember that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to think of. I know you write about it in your book, what he expressed to you, what was going on during that time that did keep him away. And it was just like when I started reading, I was like, okay, everything around me needs to stop right now. This moment, I'm going to cry. Like you pull up and all of that happens. I was just like, yes, yes, yes. And for you to be able to close the loop on that and have these pieces connected, it's absolutely beautiful. It was a great part of your journey that I really enjoyed hearing more about. In your guys' separate life journeys, as adults or as young adults, you both faced big challenges, but similar challenges, even though you spent like time apart and with addiction, with disordered eating, hyper perfectionism. How do you connect those struggles back to what you experienced when you were growing up? And how did those show up differently in your life and in your life?
I think I've spoken to my eating related issues revolving around industry expectations of
Mhm.
body image. But another layer there is that it was demonstrated in how many of our relatives and family members related to food and exercise and substances. So even though I might have chosen this version of it, like
Mhm.
this whole paradigm around using something to feel a certain way or get a certain thing, I think was pretty deeply embedded in the house. But
Mhm.
for you, how was that?
Yeah, I absolutely think that this was actually modeled for us. This escapism version of avoidance, it was through substance, it was through yo-yo dieting. I mean, our house had
Alcoholism,
but we had-
pills.
everywhere. It was just the only way we saw adults dealing
tools
with
for
life.
substances,
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that it was the fast solution for me,
Yeah.
you know?
When
Yeah. And also it's like now that I see you as a parent and what it's like for you to check in regularly with your kids and to listen to how they're feeling and to work through things together, that just simply was not any kind of communication that we had as a family
Mhm.
unit. So what was modeled superficially is what we had to cling to, but we never there weren't moments where we ever even talked about struggling with something or needing help with something or even just how was your day? I mean, there was just no, in my perception, no like substance of real connection.
What do you think prevented either one of you from starting that conversation?
Well, we were being trained.
Yeah.
Like we were, and you know, Alyson's career became, it was often centered in a lot of our conversations. So
Yes.
we couldn't risk a
Mhm.
negative outcome for Alyson's
Mhm.
career. Even the idea of therapy
Yeah.
and needing support. At one point I was self-harming as a hope to be seen and helped. And it was like, put long sleeves on. So
Instead of, oh my gosh, what is prompting you to ever feel like you
Right.
need this
Right.
kind of, yeah.
So we were really trained to have this exterior facade that was buttoned up and PR ready at all times.
Yeah.
How do you break that down? If you like,
Well,
it's
we
just
broke
like-
down. It
Yeah,
just-
I mean, you got to break down and then it breaks down
For
It's like
real.
when you are conditioned, and it's like to any. I mean, it's like a spectrum. You can. I don't think some people realize in their adult life when they're like, oh, you're so well behaved. They're obedient. That's obedience.
It's training.
It is. It's a training. Yes, it's conditioning. And when you are raised in it, like how do you deprogram yourself?
I think I really hit some rock bottoms before I ever even thought about repair. And I wish it didn't have to hit that extreme, but it was in the severity of truly not seeing any other way forward that it was kind of like, oh, this is a life or death decision here now. Like we've reached that point, and if I don't do something differently, then I might not make it. So I wish I could say it was this really courageous
There's bright lights.
moment. Yeah. But it was more, and it didn't happen overnight. I think it was also a sequence of small decisions where it was like, well, I can't keep doing this, but I don't yet know what else I'm going to do. So it's these micro steps of just having a flash of insight, recognizing something needs to change, looking for a resource, trial and error until you start to wiggle yourself into a different position. At least for me. What was it like for you?
I think worth noting, it definitely didn't happen at the same time for us. Probably one of the biggest turning points was me leaving the family home. It was something I had to do after physical assault and, asking my school to intervene and, CPS not protecting us in the ways that we needed. I had to get out and wanted to get out as much as my family, my parents specifically, verbalized they don't want me there. That was a big step for me that felt like a kind of crumbling.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually my rock bottom because I'm very resourcul.
I'll find one.
Yeah. You'll figure out how to survive.
What did that day leaving look like? Like
all my clothes and garbage bags on the front lawn. It was so embarrassing and humiliating. And I ended up living in my car for a little while in the neighborhood because I was too afraid to be too far from home. And at the same time, I was like very determined that I will never go back. So that was my first step in wanting something different and deciding that I was going to do something different. Granted, the decisions after that were full of poor choices, as 17-year-olds do, without direction. But for me, I hit a rock bottom with an eating disorder. I hit a rock bottom with a substance abuse addiction. I hit a rock bottom with relational addictions. It wasn't like a one moment turning point for me. It was a series of realizing that I have no joy in my life. And if I have no joy, then what is all this for? And that was really the moment of reflection that if I'm going to keep doing this thing called living, something significant has to change. And it has to be a change of environment, and it has to be a change of my behavior. And I have to choose this newness.
Whole life change.
It has to, yeah.
That's so much at 17. How do you plan a life change? So, I mean, like you said, it doesn't go perfect trajectory at first. Can you kind of run me through what happens? You left home.
Yeah. And the conflict started when I was, conflict with family started much younger, even before we moved to California. Conflict with myself and my eating disorder started when I was 14. So it was.
Is that when you first noticed it, or when it first came up for you, disordered eating, 14?
I would say 14. I had entered high school. We moved to California, where people just honestly look different in California, in the area that I was in, at least. A lot of dyeing hair and tanned bodies and talk about what people were wearing. I mean, I'm shy of 40, so we're at the age where the Delia catalogs were coming in.
Oh my gosh, I love the Delia catalogs.
We did too, but what did everyone look like?
Beautiful.
Right. Or at least what we were told beauty looks like, right?
It was something that I never thought I was going to get, acquire. It was just
So, there's just so many outside influences that were
overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Yep. But I did get to the point at 17 where it was no longer safe for me physically, mentally, emotionally to be. And honestly, the mental and emotional part was, I think, the most devastating. I knew I had to leave. I had tried to befriend youth groups.
Yeah.
And the youth group, actually, funny story, not funny at all, but I went to a youth group meeting and my stepdad dropped me off at it. But later that evening, he told the family that actually I didn't go to the youth group meeting. I was just sleeping around. So I tried to find stable groups and was, I just really struggled to find a fit that felt authentic to who I was and that was approved by my caretakers. And I ended up falling into a friendship they opened up their home to me, but it's also where I was introduced to hard substances. And for several years, I, numbed out in those ways. I used them as a tool to cater to my eating disorder goals. It was my addiction and my eating disorder were so intertwined. And it was probably 5 years of, I think, just survival. And I don't have a lot of memory from that period.
Yeah.
Because I was just hoping to wake up the next day until I really got to a place where I realized I was needing and wanting to make a change.
Have you two talked about any similarities between the things that you struggled off like separately? You're kind of like living separately, but you're like, oh, I dealt with that in a very similar way.
Well, because I know the names of the people, I know the families where you were staying, and hopefully you were intending to find support. You were intending to find safe adults who knew how to manage life in a way that was different from what we had in our household. And yet it was just a different version of dysfunction. And while I might have been on set with adults and it was a different circumstance, I do see this absence of modeling from adults in a way where we just had to continually figure out, so what is healthy then? What is functional? What does healing look like? And it felt like I was starting from scratch and figuring it out and using Google, more than ever consulting a human. I was reading books about it.
And another thing that is kind of similar, because I wasn't in the home structure, it was like, okay, and how do we make money? How do we feed ourselves? So we're also trying to figure out like basic human tasks.
Like caring for yourselves.
Yeah.
Right? But also, again, at a young age.
Yeah. And not, of course, knowing whether the adults that were around us would be literally coherent enough to seek support from advice. I mean, I don't know about you, but the idea of, and I say this with love and compassion to everyone, the concept of my friends wanting to go to a relative for advice was not something that I could relate to.
Like,
I did not see family as being able to provide that kind of information, helpful information, helpful information,
information maybe.
No, information usually about like what not to do. So, and of course it's not black and white, but there did feel to be a lack of some kind of manual that we could have asked for.
I could be wrong, but I feel like just listening, it feels like some of the adults in your life were just treating you like adults that knew what should have been happening, but also your kids, so be quiet when I need you to, and you should know the difference. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, I think maybe it's clicking for me right now, but I'm like, I've always been an independent person.
Hyper independent. You're the oldest daughter.
And I had to be. That's why. That's why I've always just figured it out and been resourceful. Right.
But when you're the figure it out person, or the person who's being treated as an adult because you have a career, people think you're fine. Why would I have to check up on the adult child who's fine, who's handling things and who can take care of maybe a difficult situation, who's bringing in a majority of the money, not only to their family, but to other people. So why would I need to check in on them?
Right.
Like, that's what I'm like, I feel like people were just treating you like adults when you were children.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from a society perspective, the people that were in places that could have been guides, caretakers, support of some kind, I think, when I was in school 20 years ago, they didn't have the language themselves.
Right.
So when I used my approach of asking for help, they were just as confused as I was on what you do with this information. So thankfully, I think society has developed and grown a lot more resources and a lot more language and vocabulary that we all share.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were confusing the adults in the room.
We're a similar age. I know going into things, looking back now, I can't imagine an adult handling those situations that way and that being okay, because it's not okay.
Yeah.
And especially as a mandatory reporter.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a parent, yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot imagine what the parenting experience has been like, where you at every age then have, I'm sure, flashes of where we were at that age and what was happening, and just how fundamentally different the experiences with your kids.
Yeah. I will say my inner Power Ranger wants to come out a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just like, boundary set for my children.
Yes. I mean, becoming a parent and having your kids hit those ages where like it's like a whole form of therapy, trauma revival, where I'm just
reparenting yourself.
Yes. I'm reparenting myself. I'm giving so much more grace to my younger self. I have so much more understanding instead of just thinking she was this horrible, bad little kid.
Right.
And I see it in my daughter and I'm like, she's just a child.
Yeah.
She's just a child. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's our first time being human.
I know.
For all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
At every stage.
Yes. Yeah. It's just our first time doing this. But then to see that as with someone that you created and brought into this world, it just like, especially as a parent, I'm like, okay, I couldn't have made that. I wouldn't have done that.
I relate.
Yeah. How did your individual journeys towards recovery and healing eventually bring you back in alignment together?
Well, I would be impressed by how much therapy we both have combined, right? Like we should probably win an award for that.
I think we've kept the field going.
Yeah.
I do think so I'll speak for myself and then you let me know if you want to corroborate this. But I started having particular kinds of health issues, and the only tools that were supportive of not only mental and emotional recovery, but actually alleviating some physical symptoms were somatic focused, body centered. And that was just a word I had never heard before at the time. And now, but it seems like when we reconnected, our own healing journeys eventually led us to trying some of these body-centered tools. And for different reasons and in different ways, they had made a significant difference in our lives. And from there, as we kind of, tiptoed our way back into communication over this shared experience, we sort of looked out into the world. And this was right at the beginning of the pandemic, when everyone was forced to be out of their daily schedules and maybe stuck with their mind and body alone for a long time. I think we were like, well, what if some of these tools we know now could be supportive of other people? And eventually we did this 14 days of, somatic tool, free live sessions for folks, and over 100,000 people ended up watching and saying, oh, these stress relief techniques made a palpable difference. So I think that's when we were like, oh, maybe there's something here. And we wanted to make sure we weren't just doing tools that worked only for our bodies, but that we then brought in a whole network of practitioners and experts and people with different lived experience, so that we could really make as broad of a range as possible. Do you recall that? Is that where our lives feel like they start sharing the same story?
Yes. Well, so that was like 5 years ago.
Okay.
But then I think we also had a moment, you write about it in the book, when I kind of came back into the home and started interacting more. And I had done enough self-work at that time to be able to separate Alyson from my mom.
Oh.
And I also was able, for the first time, I guess, to separate you from Jamie, because I just had younger siblings.
Yeah.
And you were a unit. And then you and mom were a unit. And so the first bit of my healing that I think allowed for me to have warmth towards you was that I saw you as an individual.
Wow.
And not like a package deal interlaced and intertwined with somebody else's story. So that was years ago. And then, as 5 years ago, we were able to like, unfortunately, share how effective Somatics was for the chronic conditions that we were experiencing, which led us to build Movement Genius.
Yeah. So I would love to go into some of those chronic pains because I personally, for a while, I was going to the doctor. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why does my body feel this way? And then blood test, you're fine. And check your vitals, you're fine. And it wasn't until years later, someone's like, have you tried a therapist? Or have you tried somebody to check on like how you are?
Yeah.
Like how you are?
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I can try that again.
Yeah.
And then I met with a wonderful person who specializes in ADHD and OCD. And they're like, oh, baby, like, they're like, were you a constipated kid? I was like, yes.
How'd you know?
Yeah. Tummy troubles.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get past it.
Yeah.
It was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, my body has been absorbing all the pain, all the trauma, everything, because I wanted to present very nicely to everybody. So something's got to take the brunt.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys shed? Because you talk about, I was finally able to see you as someone else, remove those things. How are you able to shed that stuff to open up to your sibling and have this relationship?
Well, I think it starts with being okay with looking at yourself in the mirror, right? It was a lot of individual work, seeing myself as a human was the first step. When I became human, that meant I could have needs. When I could see Alyson as an individual human who has needs, it allowed me to identify what we missed and how that could have affected us. So these are like very basic elements of my healing journey. But yeah, looking at myself in the mirror and realizing, I deserve to take up space.
Yes, absolutely.
And like allowing myself to cry for the first time.
Right.
Actually, Alyson caught me crying in the shower one time. I don't know if you remember this, but I thought you could cry in the shower only because the water drowns it out.
No, just 2. We can cry in here also.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just these permission points, I think, for myself that I was able to then offer to the other people in my life.
Yeah. I would like to know some of the permissions that you gave yourself, you as well. I think one thing I did want to ask you is I feel like you had spoke about finding what you like and how you find permission to allow yourself to explore. Yeah. So what are some of the permissions that you gave yourself?
So 2 things, kind of building on what you shared previously for that question. I felt a lot of guilt around how my career took up so much space. And so I was always so afraid of how you and our middle sibling had to have been feeling naturally and rightfully so if there was just neglect or just not the same kind of credit given to your efforts. And nothing can compare to if you have 20,000 people in a crowd shouting a name for you doing, let's be honest, when you talk about celebrity culture and the cult of celebrity, if you just lift a finger, people will cheer for you sometimes. Meanwhile, Correy's like out here combating all of these different things, navigating all of these different things with such little acknowledgement and only the resources that you were able to generate for yourself. Really, like I've just always felt so nervous to take up space in a relationship together because I just knew every conversation, it always went back to my career when we were at family visits or whatever. It was just like, let's talk about Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I unknowingly perpetuated that because I was also trying to be like, oh, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we'll stay in it. So that was something I think like I was nervous about how you really felt and were affected by this bizarre life path that your little sibling took on. Like I used to feel so scared that like, oh man, if I wouldn't have been born, like you and Jamie would have been able to just have a normal childhood. Like you wouldn't have been displaced in the same way. And that then added to me being like, well, then now I better really like make it.
That's a lot of pressure.
I know, right? But like being able to, when you said humanize yourself and then being able to see me as a human, that felt like a huge gesture and grace given to me, because then I was allowed to be like, okay, I don't know what was going on either. Instead of like, I'm so sorry, I should have never done that. I am guilty. And, so I think that was felt as like a bridge between us. And then you were asking about the permission slips.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any other permission slips that came up?
Well, I think, not only was I didn't think it was okay to cry, but a feeling in general was a very foreign concept to me. In fact, I had gotten so good at numbing just a little bit each day in my own methods that I didn't know what a sensation in my body was. So I had to give myself the permission to have a feeling, even to be angry. Like that felt like a hard thing to do.
Emotions, do you also mean like physical feeling as well? Or like, I know sometimes when you're like, sometimes I've just been gaslit so much, I don't know the pains in my own body, like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I still struggle with physical feeling. And I think that's a chronic manifestation of trauma, or so says my doctors. But it was the permission I needed to give myself to have an emotion. It was allowing myself to be angry. It was allowing myself to feel frustrated.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Recovery.com. Today, we've talked with Alyson and Correy about a number of serious issues, from disordered eating to addiction and so much more. And we want to acknowledge that you or someone you love might be struggling too. Recovery.com is a place where anyone can find mental health or addiction treatment options specific to them. You can filter by location, price, insurance coverage, therapy type, mental health condition, levels of care, and so much more. Recovery.com is the best place to find mental health or addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere.
I let myself feel disappointed for my upbringing, and that was a really hard thing to verbalize and then feel the emotion of disappointment that I didn't get to have the sibling bond, that I didn't get to have, my dad throwing the ball with me in the yard, that I didn't get to have just safe space, enjoyable spaces. So those permissions, and then also permission to have relationships with people, not just Alyson, even friendships. I didn't let myself go deep because
protecting yourself.
I was protecting myself. So there's a lot of like relational, emotional permissions that I had to start with.
With those, it's not like, so a lot of those are things you work on first in yourself. Do you remember what that step is like, then projecting it and not announcing to the world, but at some point you have to then like kind of set that boundary. Like, these are my permissions. It's like a boundary, unboundary. Like, I am allowing myself to feel this way, and this is how I will be now. And that is my boundary to do this.
What helped me, I was in this small, I'll call it a support group. It wasn't named that. It was beneficial, like a support group. And it felt like a safe container to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And thankfully, someone else told the truth first. And I realized, oh, okay, this is a container. Nothing's leaving this room. And even if somehow they knew I was related to a public figure, no one would tell. So that container was really important for me. The consistency of meeting multiple weeks a month over this, it allowed me to open up within that space. And then I will tell you, once you tell the truth, it feels real good.
It's just
It feels real good.
I don't have to make up the thing to hide the thing because of the shame there.
Yeah.
It's just release it.
And then when people in other parts of my life would ask things like, how am I doing? Or whatever the question might be, I just started practicing a little bit more of honesty. And now I'm such an open book. You can't shut me up.
People actually stop asking me.
But truth telling it was a visceral relief.
Yeah.
And I just realized I need a lot more truth telling. Yeah. But it started in that container. Yeah.
I think to build off of that, something that really scared me about telling the truth was worrying what the consequences would be for all those relationships, and having to find some willingness to do it anyway, knowing like, okay, here are the variables I can control. I'm going to approach the relationship with these new boundaries. I can still do it with compassion or with clarity or conviction and try to align with my values, sure. But I ultimately don't know how the other person's going to respond. I don't know how this work job, I don't know how that's going to unfold now. But I think something I said the other day, I was like, oh, that was worth keeping. Like, I would rather learn how to accept myself and live into truth and be rejected from the outside than constantly rejecting myself and denying my experience, but feeling the superficial acceptance.
Right.
And that living into that kind of truthfulness, I think is also helping me realize the way that the stresses of life, they're going to be absorbed somewhere, either in the ground of the planet or our systems, or it's going to go somewhere until we transmute it, whatever it is. So beforehand, my operating mode was to just let it all have to get absorbed here. And I'm hopefully now learning to like, okay, digest what's mine to deal with, sure.
Yeah, okay.
And then also like maybe reflect back what's not mine to hold, so that we're not, like chronic illness is like such a classic example of like the compounding effect over years of a system being taxed and corroded by events. So yeah. Don't wish chronic illness on anyone, but it is a bit of a testimony that some things did go down.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
And now we need a little extra TLC.
Your body took too much count.
Yeah.
Out of your personal struggles comes movement genius. What was the spark that made you decide to channel your experiences into creating a platform for others? And I would love if you could just dive into it and give people a really great overview of what you're offering there.
Yeah. So Movement Genius provides therapist-led content to help support your well-being. And we also have online and in-person community classes. And I'll say from a business standpoint, I knew that I was ready to shift away from the industry, that there were other topics that were so important, something like mental health, and not just talking about it, but providing solutions to support people that I wanted to be a part of. But I did not have any operational business skills. And in comes Correy, who is this incredible, experienced, like media consultant who's helped build businesses, specifically businesses that want to do good in the world and want to empower communities. And at that point, if you've read the book, you know that we're not necessarily itching to trust family members to be colleagues. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to let you know I'm thinking about shifting gears. And then it felt like it was at a point in your life and you're like, I'm going to let you know I have the entrepreneurial bug to build something of my own. And we were like, should we do a little test?
Yeah. And it happened right when our planet was and people were experiencing the pandemic. And the need was so evident and it was felt so deeply. And we had both, as we shared, gone through these somatic therapeutic experiences. And I personally was like, how do we make this accessible to people? How do we so normalize this routine building into our day? How do we use entertainment tricks that we both hold in our back pockets to make this feel a little entertaining enough that people are willing to listen to the psychoeducation. Why does this work? And then the watch us as we do the how. So I really enjoyed that kind of puzzle that we got to work on early on. But yeah, I honestly love building businesses. And if I can do it for the rest of my life, I will, but it's only if I'm going to make people and planet better.
Oh, I love that.
So Alyson brings, the clinical side and the clinical team in, and I just get to create infrastructure and make sure we really are creating the impact that we outlined from the beginning, now we service a number of health tech apps and we supply our content to hospitals and universities. And so I get to be that like behind the scenes mechanic, while Alyson helps really from a front end normalize therapeutic techniques and democratize access to these tools.
Yeah.
And what I love, and I think we've been lucky that our skill sets are complementary in this way, is that while you are incredibly organized, power to your organization, and proactive. Wow. And so good with sales. Wow. You would think the person who has to be on camera would be like, yeah, I can send that email. No,
they cannot send the email.
Yeah. But also you are a visionary. And so I think maybe sometimes teams are compartmentalized where you're like, okay, these are the idea people. These are the execution people. And I feel like you really can flex in all positions. And my background in the creative side, I too have some of the mechanical engineering tendencies as well. So we kind of meet in the middle in a way that has felt really useful. And I do want to name that we were really fortunate right from the start to be a part of an accelerator whose central mission was around health equity.
Okay.
And so we were very aware that we're two white, female, lean, quote unquote, wellness founders in the startup space. Wellness already looks exactly like us in so many ways. And if we only built a business that would serve more of us, then we're actually contributing to more inequity. So from the ground up, we were in workshops around equitable design, accessible tech, and all of our mentors and people who were collaborating with us. I mean, we were like, this has to be the baseline that we're thinking of mental health for all bodies, for all identities. And I think that has been central to the company. And it's also reflected in our community. Yeah. We see the folks who gravitate toward our content from this variety of therapists and experts. And when we go to our community classes, people know like, oh, if you're a wheelchair user, yes, when we, give signals during a guided visualization to, find a comfortable spot in your chair, we're also going to let you know if there's movement involved. If you want to lock your wheels, do that. So being aware that, of course, everyone's showing up in a different body and they're going to feel different every day. And so designing it from the ground up, that has made for such wonderful experiences where more people can benefit from the tools that are often just delivered for and by a very narrow subset of people.
Yeah. So when someone signs up for Movement Genius, what does that look like? I was on the website. I'm excited. So give us like a little overview of what you offer.
Yeah, it's very simple and straightforward because we wanted it to be very easy for you to get the tools as quickly as possible. So when you sign up, it'll open to a library of content. And there are categories called Getting Started. So if you're very new to these kinds of experiences, that'll be 10 videos that you can do over the course of the first 10 days. It's like 3 to 5 minutes per video sometimes. And you can start to build that toolkit. So you can try a new stress relief technique. And by the end of 10 days, go, oh, okay, I at least have some new tools in my pocket. Yes. But then we also have other categories of movement classes, of mental and emotional health skills. And you can really pick which theme is most relevant for you. So if you're learning to express anger, you can work with Dr. Damon in one of his series. If you're focused on perfectionism, you can go hang out with Leah, who's a therapist, and learn about managing perfectionism over in the other category. So I think it's been really lovely to see that each person tends to find their own corner of our content library. And then during our live classes, that's where you get to gather together and learn from experts, ask questions, try new tools, and just also have somewhere to check in.
Yes.
That's consistent.
Yeah. I love that. That's super exciting. So for both of you, telling your stories publicly has meant revisiting some painful chapters. What has it been like to reclaim your narrative, particularly as leaders in the wellness space?
I mean, it's like a deep exhale, I think. Alyson did really hard work that I get to benefit from. we get to be even louder with our truth now. And I actually feel like I can show up as a wellness founder even more authentically. I get to more publicly relate to some of the people in our community classes when we do calls with some of our, hospital teams and corporate wellness teams that are utilizing our content. I now have permission to be a little bit more transparent. So this has been a great blessing for, I think, the whole family. But yeah,
we'll see how everyone else feels about it.
At least family on this side.
Yeah. This couch is loving it.
How do siblings heal together when you've both carried so much similarly and separately?
I will say that I don't know if you felt this, but when we were first starting to interact more, I had a very awkwardness. Did you ever feel awkward? I was like,
Sometimes you are awkward.
Though. Well, I am.
You awkward?
I am. I own that. I think
I did see you approach with hesitation.
Yes.
I would say that.
Yeah. And I also, it felt so bizarre to me that I was like, because we also started being colleagues kind of around the time when we were rebuilding a sibling bond.
Oh, interesting.
Or by way of the business, our sibling bond has been able to strengthen.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt really bizarre to be like, I know we technically know each other super well, but I also have no idea who you are. And I want to have some inside jokes with you, but I really have literally no idea.
Yeah.
Who are you at work? Who are you in your family? Who are you as a parent? What do you like? Do I like
you?
you?
Do with your hands?
Yeah. And then physical affection is not really my thing. So that I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to do we have to hug? Do we have to touch?
Yeah.
What is this going to look like?
Elbows only.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, we're figuring that out. But what's it been like for you?
So when we started the accelerator, there was two people, one who became an advisor and one who was just part of the cohort, who asked the question, what's it like to work with your sibling? And it was so funny because we hadn't really worked together. I mean, I was registering the business in the background while we were
producing content. And
I said what I wanted it to be. And I defined how working with Alyson was how I wanted it to be. And I said words like, it feels so safe. And I really think naming how I wanted it to be helped shape it, at least on my end. There have been so many mess ups on both of our sides because we're tired, because we've never done this before, whatever it might have been. But I feel like we see each other's humanity in it and we choose each other in it. And like Alyson said, we have grown our personal relationship as we've also grown the business. And whatever Movement Genius evolves into, I have had such a great experience. And I think a lot of the times we maybe didn't see eye to eye on something, the way we problem solved is what I want to take into the future with my partner, with other companies, with how I interact with my neighbors. I think we got really lucky. And I'm the funny one. So whenever there's a problem,
perfect for me,
whenever there's a problem, I just make a joke.
Yeah. I do. I give you a lot of credit. I think you're okay with conflict and okay engaging in hard conversations in a way where I was like, okay, even though I'm nervous about this, I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to meet you there. And it has always felt like we're ultimately trying to reach the same goal.
Yeah.
So that's really, I do feel fortunate in that way. And it's just also been so cool to see who you became from all our early experiences. I'm like, this woman is a powerhouse and is able to hold so many different tasks and operationalize them into something that's concrete. And there are so many people who have incredible ideas, but it takes giving it a skeleton, giving it a delivery vehicle, and then figuring out how it can be done sustainably for that idea to actually come to fruition. And I know there's no world where I could have been like, I designed this course. Now let me figure out a marketing rollout and let me make sure whatever you just said about business and tax stuff. Yeah. Like I'm like, I get it, but I need you. Yeah. So I think that's been really special to be like, man, whatever you do, like I'm here to cheerlead, whether it's with Movement Genius, your other endeavors, like sign me up to support.
Yeah, you're kind of knocking it out of the park every single day.
Truly. Yeah. And then as a parent too, damn.
It is really, really amazing. Like my sister's 3 years younger than me, and we weren't like the closest, but we were in the house that like was going through the same things. I don't think we had the strongest relationship until we both were pregnant at the same time. And we were going through that whole thing together, which is something I've never like, I mean, you barely get to be pregnant with like other people. It's a very isolating feeling being pregnant. And then having my sister there was the first time we called each other every day. We were FaceTiming nonstop. We were just so connected in this thing that I don't like. It was just it's timing.
Yeah.
But like it was this renewal. And now I look at her as an adult, not that like kid that used to just annoy the crap out of me, but like I look at her as like this woman in this world that is accomplishing like major things. I just like want to cry thinking of her as a mother, as a lawyer, as like a business owner. And like, I feel that between you two.
Yeah.
I feel you looking at her and glowing and the same back. And you guys have just found this beautiful bond. I don't like when people are like, things happen for a reason, because nobody deserves to have a lot of things happen to them, you know? But through that path, you guys have found each other in like the most amazing way and connecting, not only to connect with each other, but to help other people connect and to help other people live better lives. And it's,
are you crying yet? I'm crying.
I'm trying to hold it in. Like I've knocked my head back a couple times.
Corey's doing great.
I'm
She's
media
gonna
trained.
crack a joke.
Yeah.
Do something funny, please. Yeah.
Oy, I'm semi-well adjusted.
Yeah.
Now available.
These are healthy tears.
Yeah, right.
What does recovery look like for each of you today? How do you maintain what you view as your recovery?
You know, actually, I think that word's a little bit weird for me.
Yeah.
I have friends and colleagues who use the word recovery, and it's like a very active conversation in their daily lives.
Yep.
And recovery as a word is not actually something I really use. What happened is that I got to a place where I could no longer physically even be alive in the state I was in. And I decided to hope for something better. And while I hoped for something better, I got to experience this thing called joy.
What?
It was so foreign. And it's like, oh, I am hungry for joy all the time. And so for me, recovery is less like, what am I doing as part of this like routine?
Yeah.
And it's more this chasing of joy. And I know in order to chase joy, I can't have the other things that I used to do. The joy equation did not involve those variables. So for me, that's kind of what I do every day is like the sun literally comes up every day. Are we all like shocked as much as I am? Because every day that feels like amazing. The birds are chirping outside. What?
We have great birds here too.
Okay. I'm going looking for them. I mean, these little moments of joy, I think I am just so hungry for. I just feel like a Pac-Man where I'm like, give me more, give me more, give me more. And that's actually my recovery journey is chasing joy and knowing that my past behaviors and influences, they're not part of the joy process.
The gratitude you can feel towards the smallest things when you're able to see them now. It's so beautiful. You find yourself crying in a shower over joy.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
I would say recovery feels a little different than that, but I am hoping to experience that phase or aspect of recovery and health and well-being. Mine feels a little more methodical at the moment. I still feel like I'm trying to learn some basic lifestyle habits and practice them for a long enough period that they just become an extension of who I am. But at the moment, I still am in a phase, not just related to food and exercise, more so also just like attitudes toward things and natural habits.
The season right now. Well,
like
it's the life season.
I still have to write on my list of things to do to drink water. I still...
Me too. I could go days without it until
Yes.
someone reminds me.
And things like, this is a very specific thing, maybe relates to, I mean, it certainly relates to our experience of home growing up, but I noticed that if I'm ever traveling, usually the first night in a hotel or foreign space, I used to sleep with the lights on. I used to not even get under the covers. I would basically try to pretend I wasn't even there. I wouldn't touch the towels. I wouldn't inhabit. I wouldn't land.
Okay.
And so now I'm still trying to practice, what does it mean to arrive somewhere and to unpack something and put it down and to say, even if this is only a one night stay, I can have a place that's comfortable enough to sleep. And so I feel like I'm still in a little bit of practice mode, but I'm excited to be here because it is starting to become more like, oh, I actually wanted tea during this conversation instead of like, let me refer to my list. Tea would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, water. Right. Water.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yes. And it's like we had said before, it's recovery, or however you want to phrase it, us just getting to a better version of ourselves because we want to be that way. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it doesn't even happen that year, but the steps that we take every single day to get there is like the beautiful part of it and the part that heals us day by day. And so, instead of, I have to remind myself, it's not all going to be there. It's not. I'm going to have really hard days still. I'm going to not want to get out of bed. But as long as I keep getting out of bed and I like have gratitude for the things that are around, like that's what I'm just going to chase until I can find that thing.
I will say something that's exciting. Is that before choosing the quote unquote option that is for health and well-being, still felt like I kind of had to convince myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to naturally gravitate toward those choices because I'm like, wow, I am going to feel better. And I trust that I'm going to be glad that I made that decision. And I actually don't love the horrible feelings I feel when I do the other thing. It's taken a long time, many years, but my body's starting to be like, oh yeah, I don't think I really want whatever that was. That's just a flicker of a story. It's the passive thought because it's familiar, but like that's all it has to be now instead of like, ooh, let's follow that train all the way to the end.
It's like another level. It's like, no, my body's actually kind of like, we're going to do the good thing now. Like we like to feel this way. We like to feel good and full and like fueled. We like to feel like we can present ourselves and be clear for the world. Yes.
Imagine.
I know. Right? What?
But when you come from chaos, then like stability can feel unsafe. So training that over time.
It can feel weird. It can feel unsafe. That first time you get stability can be the first time you're like, oh gosh, I feel all of this weird stuff. It's because you were just in like a constant form of chaos where you weren't recognizing it already happening and spiraling.
But here we are.
Yes.
We made it.
I'm not spiraling right now.
Dot.
How has your relationship as siblings changed since this journey for both of you has started?
Well, we talk a lot.
Yeah.
I just think, life happens. And recently something really hard happened. And the first person I wanted to call was Alyson.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually...
There we go.
That's actually... Even like thinking about that moment, that's who I chose. That wasn't even an option for me growing up.
But like, I bet that's what you always wanted too.
It's probably who I always needed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's a picture.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How's your relationship with your best friend? Just how's your relationship changed since your recovery journey has started?
I think it comes back to trust for me. Trust it's been a really hard thing for me to access. And I do know that I can trust you, not just because of the rapport we've built together, but because I get to watch you, how you show up every day in all environments. And that I think goes so far for me. And what I need when I'm going to choose whether I'm going to trust someone is I need to see who you are in private, in public. I need to see you around different groups of people people where you are in service, people where you're benefiting from something, and like to see your character. That's what I think has helped me go, oh, I can trust you as a human. And bonus, like you're also a phone number in my contacts. And like we are related.
Yeah.
So we could, I guess, hang out. We haven't really gotten there yet, but I don't know how to hang out with people yet.
Except
Me neither. I mean, if you're fine sitting there and watching a documentary, that's
Yes.
cool. But other than that, like, go home.
You and I could be friends.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like a moment where that just came to mind was with my second son when I was like, do you want to be at the birth?
Oh, yeah.
Remember? That was like, I didn't want anyone at the birth, but before I didn't want anyone near me in proximity. And it was like, I wouldn't choose you to.
And then I ended up being a part of
Yes.
the delivery.
You saw it all.
How was it? Isn't it the most like, oh my gosh? And then you were like, you're even more badass than I thought you were.
Yes.
Uh-huh,
And also,
Wow.
I wasn't expecting, it would just happen to be a moment where like all the practitioners had stepped away and
you took a peek-see.
you were like, I guess it's happening right now.
Right now.
And the doctor came in and sort of like assigned me to help hold up
You got
a
an
leg
assignment?
and place it somewhere. And
It
I
all
was
happened
suddenly
real
like,
fast.
okay.
You're like, but I never played a doctor on ER.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I don't have time to Google this one or look for a reference.
Oh my gosh.
And then also seeing all the monitors hooked up, and I'm like, so I'm watching your heart rate, and I'm like, how do I help here? But I think you did the thing. Hopefully, my presence wasn't harmful. It was helpful. But wow.
No, that's amazing. I did that for my sister.
And I don't want
too.
children.
So you got to watch a birth
Not
in
because of
IRL.
that, to be
Yeah.
clear.
No, you're great. Not for me.
That's awesome. The second my sister was like, I'm in labor, got in the car, drove. It was like an hour and a half away. Went up to the hospital. I was in scrubs because I worked in a lab. Phlebotomy. Yeah. And it was during COVID. They thought I was her doula. So they let me in the room and I got to be a part of it. I held the leg. There's only one doctor and her husband. So I got to, At the end, I was like, oh, do you want to FaceTime mom? The doctor's like, wait, you guys are sisters? I was like, yeah. He's like, that actually explains you weren't being very nice to her. Tough love. Like you needed your sister there for like the
You knew her capabilities.
Yeah. They knew it. Yeah. So that's so beautiful. I love that you were there. It is a crazy thing to witness.
Yes.
What a magical moment.
I have lots of photos, and I was like, this is really invasive.
Okay.
Are you okay that I have some? Not like,
You're like,
I wasn't like
say
multitasking,
cheese.
but but like a little newborn, and you're like, whoa,
it's incredible.
This is a being, a little bean.
You get the little bean. Little bean. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a really nice way your relationship has changed.
Yeah.
Bringing in babies together.
Intense.
What is one thing that you've learned about each other through your healing that you didn't know?
As a kid, we would call Alyson the dictionary queen. And I learned that it wasn't just like a funny name, it's real.
Elaborate.
They're so cerebral. There's so much happening, which actually has been really fun because I'm a very deep person as well. So I, as an actor, you don't know how much depth there might be to a person, and we can get into real existential conversations, and it's so fun.
You're like, yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, I think that surprised me because I didn't honestly know Alyson had so much depth because you were your
shallow characters,
pigtails,
yeah,
and you did your work it day,
yeah. Which I think, I mean, you get it now as to why when I'm in spaces like this and, we're prompted to talk about the past repeatedly, I'm like, you all, I promise you, as exciting as that looks, the real juice is this new documentary that's unpacking hyper-individualism and how it has influenced consumerism and is associated with spirituality and all connected to Sigmund Freud. It's called Century of the Self. It's available to watch for free on YouTube.
Okay. I'll be doing that tonight.
That is my jam.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me give you the bone dry research paper. I want to give you the stats. So it feels nice to be able to be like, okay, you really get it now. When someone says like, can you do the dance? And they always inevitably do.
Yeah, always.
And I'm like, I can, but did you also know I have 7 certifications?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk
tell
about
you the history of where this dance came from.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And I could. We could go there. I think, let's see, what am I surprised to learn about you? I really do admire your directness. That's so cool and so different from how I'm programmed. It's just amazing to me that when you see a problem, you see an issue, the natural responses tend to it and problem solve. I think also to watching you as a parent, I am just like shocked at your ability to manage your experience while being present to what your kids are feeling. I know that I spend a day in the household and I'm like, whoa, activation. And you somehow are able to be like, okay, this is happening, but also I'm going to deliver it still with this caring tone.
Yes.
While also simultaneously like, okay, now I got to reorganize all these other details to make sure this thing gets taken care of, blah, blah, blah. Like that is just, I don't like wish you had to wear 12 hats every day, but
you wear them well.
You do wear them well. And it's still, as Veronica actually texted me this morning, who helps with professional styling. Otherwise I would be in sweatpants.
Shout out, Veronica.
Yeah.
You've been doing a great job.
Yeah. But she sent a quote that said, just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy.
Yep.
And I think like that's been evident that you do carry it well. It is heavy. And I'm excited to hear that like you still are striving for joy and open to joy amid all of that.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that was a really nice quote that she said.
Yeah.
Again.
Yes. Right? I'm going to keep that one
in mind. Yeah. Last episode, we asked Alyson, but Correy, if you could tell your 9-year-old self anything, what would that be?
You know, my 9-year-old self, you are taking me back. I was sitting in a pink chair with our other sibling next to me, and my parents were telling us that they were getting a divorce. And I, in that moment, started practicing this very PR-worthy delivery of how we were going to be okay. And I just wish somebody would have said, the not being okay is also a great choice. Not, I was so good at telling people how we were going to hold it together, how it was good for everyone. It was how people were going to thrive through this. It was a little 9-year-old, like putting on the public image for the family. And I wish somebody would have told me that I could equally not be okay. And I just wish that more people listened to that 9-year-old. That's something I really try to practice with my kids. I say often, like, be quick to listen, slow to speak. And that wasn't offered to me. And so I just wish I didn't have to have that buttoned up message for the world at age 9. And I wish I didn't have to hold the pressure that I felt like I needed to carry. And I wish some more people would listen or given me a chance to have a voice.
If there's somebody out there watching now and you could give them any type of encouragement, if someone's struggling with mental health, with anything, what is something you'd like to say to encourage them?
Well, I guess I feel like I did the drugs. I did the eating disorder. I did I did it. I guess what I'm saying is like, I did the worst of the worst as far as the world might be concerned. And I still was deserving of hope and goodness. And I think so often people are blaming themselves. They're carrying shame. They're assigning pain as if they've earned it. And nobody deserves to suffer. And that's what I would say, is that nobody deserves to suffer. And I would also probably encourage a safe connection, because that container of people were my safe connection. I had no other way out. So I would just encourage community. I think community is where it all begins.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you guys want to share with our listeners? A word of advice? Again, I would like to hear where we can find your book.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you want to explore some of the stress relief techniques or classes with Movement Genius, it's simply movementgenius.com or at Movement Genius on social media. And you can find Semi-Well-Adjusted anywhere you read or listen to books. It is quite a fun cover, smushed against
I saw the video
piece of glass.
making this picture. I thought it was really cool.
Awesome. And any final thoughts or words?
Why do I want to make a fart sound next to you?
Make it silly?
Just make it silly.
Yeah.
No, I think, the spirit of Movement Genius really is to make all of this accessible. So we'll make sure that your community has very affordable access and would invite everybody to show up to a community class. We're there.
Yeah.
We need the tools just as much as everyone else does and wants them. So
yeah. And I saw the website. The tools are amazing. I can't wait to sign up. So thank you both so much for being here. I knew I was going to love a little sibling discussion.
Yes.
And thank you all for joining us. I am so grateful that you're here, and we'll see you next time.